What's going on, guys? My name's Voss, and if you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. I hope you've enjoyed some of the other reviews I've been doing, like the Lambo and then the Infiniti G37. My goal is to try and get you guys more reviews, and today we have a very special review. You can probably already tell by the title, but right in front of me, I have a 2018 Tesla Model 3 Performance. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that cinematic edit. It took me a lot of time to put that together, but let's just jump right into it. Alright, so for starters, this is a 2018 Tesla Model 3 Performance. Now, if you don't know much about the Model 3s, I don't know if you've been living under a rock or not, but this Model 3 is the Performance version, which is the second version of the long-range one they have. This was started as the $35,000 budget Tesla that was supposed to come out, and it later, they haven't actually released the budget ones yet. They're right now working on the long-range rear-wheel drive ones as well as the performance ones. So I've spent the entire day with this car, and I'm going to give you some of my opinions and what I like and what I don't like, as well as drive it a little and give you my reactions behind the wheel. So let's jump into it. This being the highest trim that you can possibly get from the Model 3 lineup, this car comes in at roughly $80,000. That's a lot of money. This car was unveiled as the $35,000 budget car, but unfortunately, right now the cheapest one you can even get is the long-range one, which is about $50,000. So at $80,000, this puts itself in the same category as an M3, a E63, and a lot of those other cars. This car is entirely optioned out. Has the red finish, which was like an extra $1,500, the 20-inch sport wheels, so it comes with the 18-inch Aero and the 19-inch Sport, but then if you get the Performance with it was an additional $5,000 upgrade, you get these really nice 20-inch wheels and red calipers, as well as Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. Now, some of you might be asking, okay, where is the carbon fiber little spoiler and then the badging? So this car was picked up today. It's literally got 50 miles on it. The Tesla dealership here in Columbus said this was one of the first Model 3 Performances delivered in Columbus. There's probably only one driving around in Columbus, so they're a little behind schedule on getting that spoiler and those badging set up. So they were giving an ETA of about anywhere from a month to 2 months before that stuff comes on. Now, that's not like a option that you have to drill into your trunk lid or anything like that. It's just a little 3M sticker that goes on here, as well as the badging. So Tesla's kind of done away from the kilowatt hour rating that the Model S and the Model X have. So previously there was like a 65 watt, 70 watt, 75, 80, then they had a performance, so they had dual motor, ludicrous mode. They've kind of done away with that. This car doesn't have a kilowatt hour rating, but it's estimated to be around 75 kilowatt hours, which puts this car at roughly 450 horsepower and like 470 foot-pounds of torque, making this thing go 0 to 60, which Tesla rates as 3.5 seconds. But a lot of people have been testing it, and a lot of channels have been coming out with numbers a lot quicker, closer to 3.2 seconds. So for starters, there's a few ways to turn this car on. There is a smartphone app you can download from Tesla to sync up your Model 3, or like I have, because I don't own this car, it's a little key card that I was able to borrow. So basically what we're going to do is walk to the side of the car. You can put this key card right here. As you see, the mirrors start to open, the car starts to open. It's kind of like if you've ever driven a Huracan. It's a similar style doors. You just kind of pull this up, pull that back, and then that gives you access to the inside of the car. So once you get in the car, it shows you a couple options here. We'll jump into that for a second. But since I have this key card, to start the car, it'll show you on this menu. You essentially go ahead, put this guy right here like that, put your foot on the brake, and then the knob's right here. Go ahead and push this down and drive. I don't have my seatbelt on, so it's going to yell at me, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back in park, which you just go ahead and press this button for. So that's essentially how you start the car. When you get inside, this car is very, very minimalistic. Now, this could be something you love or you hate. Personally, I love it. I like this kind of textured wood finish that they have going on here. Everything's real minimal, everything's real sleek, sporty looking. Apologize if there's glare, but you can tell the steering wheel is also very minimalistic. There are two knobs here that have the zoom kind of forward and backward as well as left and right. They've got this little thumb wheel as well as a little tactile feedback button. And along with here, the air vent is just one giant swooping piece here, which can be controlled by some options on the touchscreen here. Go ahead and click that. You can set individual or you can do it together for the climate. You can just drag this guy around and change the vents around and where the air comes in, as well as the fan speed. Coming into the center console area, it's very minimal in here. You can tell there's two cup holders. There's this spot here to put kind of like some accessories. Maybe your purse can fit underneath there. It's pretty small. They have the second spot here. You can just press and it comes up. And once you're done, you can just, it's a little magnet and it goes right back. If you actually slam this too hard, it will throw a warning on here saying you are pressing this hard and you need to press it gentler. You can also click here and it'll reveal this little spot, and it actually has a iPhone and an Android USB-C charging port, and that's just set up with these two cables that go behind it. There's a few driving modes you can set on this car. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to create one, and when I go ahead and click on it, you can tell the entire seat starts to move forward. It sets up the mirrors for my driving position. This is all manual. You can't do this electronically, so you just got to do that, but that's not a huge deal. Overall, this car is pretty spacious. It is very comfortable in here. I have ample room to drive around. It's very comfortable for me. I'm only 5'6", maybe 5'7", and 155 pounds, so I actually sit relatively close to the wheel. So anyone that sits behind me, they'd probably be fine with how much legroom they have. If you're a little taller, like 6'1", 6'2", you might be a little cramped back there, but overall, it's very comfortable. That's the front. Let's go into the back. And like I said, I have the driving set for me right now. But if I go ahead and sit down, you can kind of tell, like, my knees are here and the seat's here. There is a good bit of distance. This is extremely comfortable for me. I have no issues in this car. Like I said, for a long road trip, I personally would have no problems driving in here. If you were taller driving, whoever's sitting behind you might have some issues, but overall, it's very comfortable and very minimal, but it feels nice. It feels premium. Instead of like a cigarette lighter outlet here, they put two USB ports for you to charge your phone. Another feature found in the Model 3 that I have yet to find in any car, even in that $35,000 to $50,000 price range, is this panoramic sunroof kind of, or moonroof, my apologies. It starts here, it goes back all the way, and it stems the entire rear of the car back to the glass. It is amazing. All right, now that I've talked about a lot of things that I love in this car, I don't want to jump into every single feature this car has. You can find a lot of those. I just want to give you my opinions. I'm going to give you some of the stuff that I absolutely hate. Starting with these dome lights. They're useless. These are the most underpowered LED lights ever. They're not going to be good. It has to be basically completely dark outside for those to be usable. Another thing I hate in this car is kind of this trunk. While it is extremely spacious, the trunk lid opening and closing system is ginormous. I'm not very tall, but this is almost like a crossover SUV level. Like, here's the trunk, and there is the lid to close. Like, I'm almost having to reach, like I said, not very tall, but close to full height just to close this. All right, I've given you kind of some of the stuff I like and I don't like. I'll try and bring up a little more of the stuff I don't like. It's really sunny, so I apologize if I'm squinting really bad. But I'm going to talk a little more about now just kind of how I feel with this car and some of the features it has that a lot of cars I've driven that don't have. Let's start with regenerative braking. Once you get up to about 20-30 miles an hour, as soon as I let off the gas, the car starts braking on its own. You could love this feature or hate this feature. I'm not entirely sure. Personally, I love it. It keeps you from not having to use your brakes ever, and the brake pads, you don't really wear them out because when the car stops, it's not actually using the brake pads. As soon as you start in here and you get up and you start going, obviously it's electric. It really doesn't make any noise. It's fast though. It's like gut-wrenching fast. You get on it, you step on it, it kind of doesn't really put butterflies in your stomach. It kind of does the first few times, but after that, after so often, honestly, and you're not expecting it, it kind of gives you a headache. I don't know how to explain it, but it's so fast it kind of hurts. So, as I mentioned earlier, this car was basically announced to the world like 3 years ago, and at the time it was supposed to be a car that was a mass-made electric car that wasn't ugly. It was cool, it was practical, it could get you to places without having to, if gas is starting to get up higher, and it's done all of those things, but it's not the $35,000 that everyone thought it was going to be. Yes, you can still get the $35,000 car, but it's going to be a while before that car is available. So until that happens, right now, as I said, you can only get the $50,000 car, and then if you start adding the performance, it's like $64,000 is where it starts. You add the spoiler, the performance brakes, the tires, the wheels, and all those options, and this car goes up to, almost over $80,000. Yes, there's a $7,500 tax incentive currently, but it's gonna be a while before you get that back. So autopilot in this car works phenomenally. It's not like full self-driving. While this car, the owner has pre-purchased every option, this car is completely loaded out. That is not a technology that's available yet. So whenever the regulations for it passes, that will be available. But essentially, you get to the speed you want, as long as your wheel shows this little gray indicator like on the display. You can double tap the drive knob. It'll say, please keep your hands on the wheel. And you do for a little bit, and then you just let off. And you can tell it's kind of funky at times. It works. Sometimes I get really startled with it, but it works phenomenally well. What it doesn't do is detect like stop signs and like red lights and stuff. If there's not a car in front of you, it won't stop. It will just run that light and go. And that's part of the self-driving features. While the car is equipped with it, it can't be activated. So another, I guess elephant in the room that I don't know if people address enough is, maybe they do, but there is no like speedometer, tachometer, nothing. It's like, there is, but it's not in front of your line of sight. So as you're driving, you kind of just can focus on the road. Everything's in the center right here. For some people, this is awful. And I honestly, I was one of those people. I was one of those haters. I was one of those trolls that kept crapping on the fact that there was no center. Everything was in the center. There was no dash, right? Now that I've spent the day with this car, I don't mind it at all. Something that never gets old in this car is the speed. It is so fast. It puts the weirdest feeling in your stomach. And like I was saying earlier, when you jump into the $80,000 price range, you're pricing yourself with an M3, maybe an M4. The E63s, they're a little higher, so like a C63, but the sedans at an entry-level price, those cars come with a lot, and this car is trying to compete with those. So while the dash is minimalistic and the interior is minimalistic, while it's something I like, it does lack a few features. One of the things that I kind of mentioned earlier, I'm kind of jumping now, but some of the thing I hate in this car is there's a feature called ambient light. You turn that on, it throws this little dim lit light underneath your legs. It is awful. So when you compare it to Mercedes, who has ambient lighting, it has a strip that goes through the inside of the car, and you can change colors, you can change it on the dash, you can completely change up. It's got the full RGB spectrum. That's what ambient lighting is. When you expect ambient lighting and you get a little dim lit LED that doesn't even light anything, it's awful. For an $80,000 car, you're going to start expecting some sport options, right? So in this car, the steering, there's a few options. You can click, if I go to the driver option and I go to driving, for acceleration, there's chill and sport. I have it in sport. It's kind of boring in chill. So like, that's sport. If I go ahead and turn to chill, it starts to go, and I'm not even faking it. You can tell there's literally no throwing back in your seat. For the steering mode, there's comfort, standard, and sport. Each mode gets a little tighter. I just keep it in sport. It feels great. It feels like a performance car. It's still a little looser than the Infiniti that I reviewed, but overall it's pretty amazing. And then for regenerative braking, there's standard and low. I just left it in standard. I actually like regenerative braking, so I like the way it feels. It might not be for you. So I've kind of talked about a lot of things I like and hate about this car. Honestly, the things I don't like, they're minimal. Yeah, the lighting kind of sucks inside. Minimalism I enjoy, but that might be something you don't like. But overall, this car is proven to be amazing. It's honestly one of the best driving cars I've ever felt. It handles great. I was afraid putting 20-inch wheels, you can kind of feel everything on the road. It's very smooth and comfortable, and you really don't feel a lot of bumps. And this is honestly one of the best cars I've driven. This better than the M3. I've driven that. I've driven the RS5 and the E63s. This is just a completely different feeling. You don't get that instant acceleration that you get from the electric motors like you get in this car. Alright guys, I pretty much have to give this car back now, so that's going to wrap up this review. If you've enjoyed the review on this 2018 Tesla Model 3 Performance, smash that like button, subscribe, turn that notification bell on, share these. That's a huge way to help me out. I'm going to try my best to get you guys more reviews, and I have a few more in the works, and I will see you next video. One more time. Alright, now I'll see you next video.